Hello. When I was a student in my second term at university, I pitched up at what I vaguely realised was a Christian mission event. I was on my own. I pitched up late. There was some music, some drama, and then a very low-key talk. And in this talk, I was told about the crucifixion of Jesus. In chapter 19 of his Gospel, John tells us that Jesus was flogged, mocked, hit, shouted at, wrongly condemned to death, and crucified. He gives us the bare facts and some dialogue, but he spares us the details. At the age of 19, I heard those details for the first time, and I've since seen them on film. Now, as you may know, a Roman flogging was done by a small whip with leather thongs, and in those thongs were tied bits of metal and sharp bits of sheep bone. Jesus would have had his hands tied to an upright post. He would have been stripped naked and flogged. We don't know how many times. We do know that the legal limit for the Jewish people was 39 times. Then the soldiers shoved a crown of thorns on his head. Probably it would have been as sharp as barbed wire. They dressed him up. They mocked him. They hit him around the face. He was shouted at by the crowd, unjustly condemned by Pilate to death under the pressure of the crowd, and then crucified. The horizontal bar of the cross would have weighed maybe 50 kilograms. That would have been put across his shoulders, and wounded as they were, and he'd have had to carry that outside Jerusalem to Golgotha, the place of the skull. There his wrists and his feet would have been nailed to the cross, and he would have been raised to an upright position, a position of excruciating pain, and there he died 6 hours later, and his final breath was just, in his final breath he said, "It is finished." For me, the most striking thing about it, though, is not so much the physical pain, great though that was, but the fact that Jesus didn't need to have gone through any of this at all. When Pilate says to him, "Don't you realize I have power either to free you or crucify you?" Jesus says back to him, "You would have no power over me if it were not given to you from above." The Apostle Paul puts it like this in his letter to the Philippians: "Although Jesus was in very nature God, he made himself nothing. He humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross." That's what Jesus did for you, the speaker said at the end of his low-key talk. What have you done for him?